Um, okay, so should be live. Hey Ate,
Hey man, how
how are
you
you doing?
doing? I'm
I'm good.
doing good. I'm doing good. Doing good.
Nice. Yeah, basically, sorry we're a little bit late, y'all. Basically, we're having some technical difficulties, as there always is, in one way or another. But we managed to figure it out, so all good. Yeah, I'm joined today by Ete. And Ete, let's see. Oh, 1 second. I managed to click the wrong button here. Sorry, I'm just getting the last bit set up.
It's all good.
There we go. Ete. How do you pronounce your last name correctly? Because I don't want to slaughter it.
Gailan.
Garland. So
Yeah.
Ete Garland and Edson and I we met the first time back in 2012, I believe,
Yeah.
in Newcastle at Edson Hawk Studio, and Ete was like grinding away. He was like doing, you're like eating tomato soup for
Oh
like
my god. Oh.
for like 2 weeks straight because you had no time to like do any like to cook, so you just wanted to get back to working. So I remember even back then you were having like a insane, very disciplined sort of mindset of like you just wanted to utilize every single second in the day. And now, and then we kind of like, I was done with the internship and then moved back to school, and then you joined Riot, right? And then we actually got the chance to work at Riot too,
Yep.
which was really wonderful. You were on the Splash team for a bit, but you've been on Valorant, um, and now after how many years at Riot were you at?
6.5.
6.5. After 6.5, you decided to go back to Sweden, start your own studio,
Yep.
and to do that. And now you're the founder of Inva,
Yep.
and you're kicking ass with that. So
Thanks.
it's been really really fun to kind of like see how that whole journey kind of happened. Do you want to like tell people a little bit about yourself? Like, what do you do? Um, Little
Yeah.
short introduction.
Yeah. Super happy to do this live stream and chat with you, man. Day before Christmas as well. We needed a Christmas miracle to get the audio to work, which we got in the end.
Yes.
Um, Yeah, so my role now is I met Esben, like you said, can you believe it's almost 10 years ago?
Yeah.
It's crazy how time just flies. And now I run my own studio here. I left Riot about a year ago. I started a studio. Uh, it was in November. It was just me, you know. I think with COVID, I wanted to try something different, go back to family. And today we're 30 people in our studio with a lot of people working remotely. It's just a bunch of incredible people that I get a chance to work with every day, and I'm super happy about that.
Man, that's awesome. Like you've been having so much, like you've been going with 100 miles an hour, and it's just keep going. I cannot believe the amount of growth that the company had, like from 0 to 30, and 30 is a long as many people to both manage and make sure and all that. So that's a lot of work for sure. Um, but yeah, tonight we're just gonna hang out and chill. We're gonna kind of take it really relaxing and everything, so it's gonna be a very chill stream. We're not gonna kind of like put a ton of pressure on our shoulders in order to say like, yeah, we need to perform or whatever. We're gonna sit and draw. We're gonna have fun. Edsa has a piece that he would really like to move along with and finish up. And I have no idea what I'm gonna be doing. Maybe some faces of some sort. But it's just gonna be super chill, and then we're gonna be taking what's it called, some Q&A from the chat. So if there's any sort of questions, feel free to just shoot them off. But
Cool.
yeah, let's say what is this piece that you're working on?
So this was a piece I actually started when it was autumn, but I never got a chance to finish it. Uh, I just like the idea, whenever you find like a good spot, you sit outside, you just sit and sketch. And the image is called artist sketching, and I sort of just want to capture that, kind of like in the shade. But like autumn is my favorite season. Like the colors are just so beautiful. Um, and when you lived in LA as well. Like there's really no autumn there. But in Sweden we have it, and last year or this year I got to see it, and I wanted to paint something inspired by it, but I never got a chance to finish it. So we'll see how far I can make it today.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Is autumn your favorite time of the season, or like which season is your favorite?
I think so because like I love to go outside and paint, and that is the one season where you get like these beautiful colors and like the weather it's not too cold, it's not too warm, there's no insect. It's like the perfect balance for outdoor painting. So and you get great colors. So it's yeah, that's definitely my favorite season.
Awesome. And would you want to tell people about what happened with your plein air session today?
Oh man. So we finally we it was probably the worst plein air session ever, but we finally yeah, haven't had much vacation this year, but now we finally are going break this year, and I mean, one of the things I want to do during this break is do some plein air painting, and I got my gear, everything set up for the first outdoor painting session during the break, and because I live in Stockholm, and it's -4. If you ever tried painting outside when it's minus, you have to find ways to keeping your fingers from going like into icicles, right? And one of the ways I like to do it is have hot tea with me. So it's like, you wrap your hand around the mug, you drink some hot tea, and it's sort of like you balance it out and keeping your fingers warm that way. You take quick breaks. So I prepared a massive jug of hot tea, and I did a short hike to get to the location. By the time I'd arrived, I realized I did not screw the lid on properly, and literally everything was soaked in warm tea. So the first outdoor painting session did not work out. Let's just say that.
So did you go home afterwards, like after you found out that the tea was just like spilled all over, or you're like,
Uh,
okay, I'm gonna try and sit and do this anyway, or what happened?
I still tried. I still tried, but the problem was like because I haven't done it in a while, my setup wasn't. Because every time you do it, you discover something new of like, oh, I need to make sure this works and this, and my tripod wasn't set up perfectly, so the wind kept blowing over my canvas all the time.
Oh,
So
that's horrible.
yeah, it was definitely. It's like you were struggling to just get paint on the canvas versus trying to just have a good time, doing the plein air while everything is wet. So I called it quit pretty early, but I'll be back in a few days again to try again.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
A for effort. But yeah,
Yeah. Thanks.
like if you don't have the heat, like
Yeah.
you're gonna freeze out there very
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
Do you guys have snow in Sweden right now?
It's like frost and the lakes, like because I was painting next to a lake, and like it's not near the coast. It's indoor. I don't know what you call that. Um, but it's completely frozen over, so people do a lot of ice skating. So it's really nice now. Do you have snow in Denmark? I think you
Yeah,
do.
yeah, we do. Yeah, yeah. It hit on the 1st of December. All of a sudden, we just got a lot of snow, and then what happened after was like it kind of disappeared, but now it's back. It's back right in time
Yeah.
for Christmas tomorrow for us. So, yeah, it's wonderful because I haven't hadn't had snow in like all the time I was in LA, which was about almost 5 years, and I was like coming back to it, and I was like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
miss it. You know.
It just has a special vibe to it because that's also what I felt in LA. During Christmas time, it's hard because you grew up in Denmark, right? So you always used to snow during winter. So yeah, um,
Yeah. It doesn't feel quite like Christmas if it isn't like cold and dark and gloomy
yeah, yeah,
outside.
yeah,
It's part of it. It's part of it.
yeah,
That's awesome. So can you like do you want to share a bit with like how has it been like starting your own studio and all that, like because it's not only that, like you relocated country,
yeah,
you became a father, and you started a studio. It's just like you did like all of the big things like all in one go.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit like how that was?
Uh, do not recommend to do all three at once. But but I think this year was probably the most intense for me to try and like juggle everything, right? You know, because when you do your own studio, it's like um, you can't really fail, right? Because it's not like we're getting external investment. It's like you have it was very like high pressure to make sure it worked, and pretty stressful year. But I think as a whole, good to have a bit of a break now by the end of the year.
And when do you guys kind of go back and start up again?
We'll be back 3rd of January. Are you do you have a break as well? You also have a break now, right?
Yeah. I'm also on a break. Yeah,
Okay. You also back 3rd of January?
back 3rd of January, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I'm really enjoying the vacation too. I needed it.
Yeah.
Um, so I think also like one thing that's maybe good to just let you guys know, like we work full-time jobs and then like the social media and all, and this is like kind of like more like a playtime playground activities. This is really fun. So like what we normally do in the day to day is more job like, I would say, because we don't just sit and do this all day, get paid for it. But that would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
Yeah. That would be amazing. Twitch
So,
streaming of art instead of streaming games. You just stream personal paintings.
oh man, what? Okay, wait. That could be a fun sort of thing, and like, so let's say you had that. Let's say you were in that sort of world. I'd say like
Yeah.
if you then didn't have to worry about all that, what sort of project would you work on? Like what would be the
Oh,
thing you would steer towards?
I think, man, I would do slice of life paintings. Like maybe like uh, almost like an artificial person you're following in their day to day. You know, maybe it's like slightly alternate reality. I remember there was this particular Instagram. I forgot what it was called. Oh, it was called Living in the Future. I think I showed it to you when we were in LA.
Yeah.
Uh, of this girl who the Instagram worked that it was this fictional person's Instagram, and she had like been teleported into the future, and every day she'd post updates of things she saw in the future, and it was like throwback to stuff that's now, and it was amazing. Maybe something like that. I don't know. What would you do?
Good question. I think start with like there's a personal project that I would like to do and wrap up and finish that. Then afterwards, it's a good question. I think whatever would kind of come to mind at that point. But yeah, I think the first thing would be to like kind of finish off that personal project.
Yeah,
But but yeah, and then just play around with it, right? Like have fun, see what kind of comes to mind, what interests you, and being able to explore. I think that's
yeah.
going to be part of it.
Do you think? Because I thought a lot about that. Do you think you'll ever be? Because like with gaming, right? It's like you know the it's a different entertainment aspect. Do you think ever would be like you'll have art streamers who because it's so much slower pace, right? Than someone streaming a game.
Yeah,
Do you think it'll ever be like that? That you have like these really big art streamers?
I think we already do. I mean, I think Ross is one of them, right? Where he went like all in on the YouTube and also like on Twitch too.
Oh,
I
okay.
know yeah, he like my girlfriend, she was like when she was like in the start, she was like asking if somebody was streaming. She would say, "Are you twitching?"
Okay.
No, I'd be like, so essentially Ross is twitching often,
Okay.
and and he's I think he's really consistent in the way that he's doing it. So I think it's already there, but
That's
I, I
awesome.
I don't yeah, I don't know how like I don't know like let's see like I don't think it's as big as some other like streaming and things like that, but
Yeah,
it could be that it but it's so slow pace. It's like you
yeah,
know it's not as exciting I guess to watch.
yeah,
But depends on the viewer, I guess. It's very chill.
yeah. I think as an artist, maybe it's fun to have on the side as you're seeing someone else paint while you're painting. So,
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. There's something do you find that too that like I work better when there's like if there's other people that are focused and working around me too, where I'm like, oh, so it's like and then you kind of just like hone in, or do you like it more when it's just you and there's not no distractions, nothing?
I like men sitting next to, especially like, being so much disconnected from everything. I kind of do miss just like if you get up to stretch your legs or go for a coffee, whatever, and you can just see everybody's screens. It's just so goddamn cool. Um, I remember that when we were sitting together in the splash pod, it was just amazing. You just spin your chair, and you're like, amazing art, amazing art, uh, which is just really, really nice.
I agree. It was some fun time. Also, like when we were we would sit and do the games, right? We would play together.
Yeah, yeah,
That was so much fun.
yeah, yeah. That's actually, I'm actually curious. What do you think about because now I think everybody before everybody started working remotely. Everybody really wanted that, but now that everybody work remotely, do you think people would prefer? I guess it depends on lifestyle, but what do you prefer, like sitting next to people, or would you prefer just uh, the work from home situation with hangouts and everything?
I prefer work from home, but I think so at least. I think yeah, that's like what I'm enjoying more, but I do not miss meetings like like
Okay. Yeah,
like the constant like meetings and also like sometimes it just feels like it's just all the time and it's like when there's the meet creep where meeting is just kind of creeping in and
yeah,
you're like man I don't know when I'm supposed to do all this drawing
yeah,
so I like definitely kind of like the work from home and then having like less meetings. So that's kind of like that's kind of my been my experience. But what about you?
Uh, I feel the same, man. Like I'm also like the meeting stuff, but it's like now, uh, most of my day is meeting, so it's like, uh, I kind of do want to go back in house though, for our team at least, and offer the option, because I do think, uh, otherwise, like it could feel, I think, too much a bit of as a grind, when you're just sitting in your room. Uh, but that's just my take on it.
No, I definitely think there it's like a balance. Like I think almost like the two days working in an office and then the rest
Yeah,
um
yeah,
from home. I think that would be kind of like maybe my sort of thing. But I don't know like right now I'm really enjoying the work from home
yeah,
solution. And I also find I can kind of schedule my day as I see fit.
yeah,
Also because like essentially, I'm working on my own hours. So like if I if I feel like I need some I don't know like some time to take care of something in the background, otherwise I can't really properly focus. I can just go ahead and do it, and
yeah,
then I can work a bit in the evening, and that's wonderful. I'm really enjoying that a lot.
yeah, yeah. I think definitely it's here to stay, and I think most companies are gonna have to uh, always offer that option. No, I don't think there's ever going to be like that situation where you have to. It's expected to be in house. It'd be more like a mix, unless you have to obviously move to another country. But yeah,
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. But I think it's also like there's something magically happen magical happening when you have, people kind of gathered
yeah,
and they learn from each other like organically and stuff like that. There is something really beautiful to that studio environment.
yeah.
But what would you say like a normal day looks like for you?
Ooh, for me,
Yeah.
so I don't do too much painting nowadays, day to day in the studio. But I what I do is help a lot with feedback, and also we hired an fantastic art director, Claudio, who super talented artist who's helping me more on the feedback side. So it allowed me to focus a bit on the studio side and how do we keep moving forward. But what we do is like I get up, I prepare starting from 7. I prepare and gather all the files for everything from all of our artists, and at 8 I meet with my art director, and we sort of feedback every single piece, every project. We talk about like from 8 to 9. Is this piece at risk? What does this person need help with? Is this good to go? Sort of like try to like schedule out the day for how he can focus on and who needs the most help, right? And if I need to dive into help on some of the project as well. And then we have like our kickoff with all of our teams start kicking off from 9. It's like at 9 is like our producers and leads. And then after 9:30, all the other teams kicks in, and then throughout the day, there's a bunch of stuff that pops up all the time, you know, and all the way until I think my day ends at around 10:30, because I like to. We have people from Brazil, and I always like to be there until they end their day, and because of the time zone, it's 10:30 Stockholm time, so it's a bit of a longer day, but I think it's important to be around when they sign off in case they need anything.
Sense. But then you also like, yeah, then you can still like you have to be like around the computer, but you can also kind of like go around like, oh, I need to put the dishes or something like it and do that if so. Yeah.
Yeah, mostly it's working though. It's rare that
Okay. Okay.
it's rare that I get to do that stuff. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
No
How
worries.
how does your day look like then?
It's very different. It's how do you say, like it kind of depends, and I really like that because it's like I can what's it called? I can shift it,
Okay.
but the routine I got going right now is essentially I'll wake up around 8 or 9,
Yeah.
and I'll join in for a what's it called? A warm up Discord call. So I join up in Bjorn Huri's Discord, and we'll all sit and have 1 hour to do a random topic that's generated on the day,
Man, those
and
are
then we'll do a.
beautiful. I've been seeing them.
Thanks, man.
Super
Thanks,
cool.
man. And we've been then we have an hour to kind of do one of those, and it's really nice to kind of like get the creative juices flowing and just get warmed up and kind of start into it.
Yeah.
Um, and then I start working after that. So I start working from 11, and then around 1, I'll get a bit to eat, and then I have 3 days a week. I'll work out, so I'll go to the gym, do a quick workout session, and then I would normally work until like evening, and then around 9ish or something like that. I'll what's it called? 8 or 9ish, depending on. Sometimes again, it's flexible, so sometimes I go start earlier, or sometimes I start later.
Yeah.
And then I kind of do it like that. But it's wonderful. And then there's like one or two meetings during the week. Wonderful.
That's awesome.
Um, and then it's just the rest is just to, yeah, focus on making the art, and trying to do the best you can, essentially.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. So that's like a day so far.
The
Right now. Yeah.
the daily paintings. Do you guys all just pop into a Discord call and then Bjorn throws out the topic, or how do you guys approach that?
So it's approached like there's a bot and everybody can they can
Oh,
kind of like yeah, they can just say like, hey, add a topic, and then they add a topic, and then like we meet up at 10 in the morning, and we're like, okay, let's go. We get the bot to say like, hey, we want a topic, and gives us one, and
it's awesome.
then yeah, and then we basically have to draw that. And then we have 1 hour, and then that's it. You can, if you want to spend longer, you can, but most people like just stick to the 1 hour.
Yeah,
But it's a good way to just get the day started.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're ever down, Ate, let me know, and we can get you in there. And I know you've been doing a lot of speed painting. You had like a full year where you did a speed painting every day.
Yeah,
So you love speed painting.
I'd love to get into that again. It's really fun, especially like when you don't get to prepare. You just like, all right, let's let's just get into it. And if more people do it as well, you get so many just fun takes, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We had there's a guy called Rolo, and Rolo did a fantastic piece of. So I think the theme was Spider-Man,
Okay.
or it was like I feel like Spider-Man or something like that,
Okay.
and then and then that can be interpreted in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And the picture he did was really awesome. And it had nothing to do with the traditional Spider-Man, but it oh shit, we have Ross. Ross is here. So hey Ross.
Hey, hey.
Uh, so yeah, that's awesome. So um, he did like a Spider-Man kind of inspired thing, and it was fucking awesome. It was so cool.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, so it's really good fun.
Yeah.
Let me know if you ever have some time. We'll make sure we get you in there and get you onto that speed paint train again.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. I wanna restructure my schedule a bit next year, and if I can slot that in, I will let you know. I'd
Sounds
like
good.
to I'd like to get more painting done next year than this.
Yeah, I know you're so busy that it's hard to catch you. Okay, so there's a question here that says let's see. There's several. So here's one. What's the best way to learn slash practice as a new concept artist illustrator? What would you say there?
Best way to I think the first thing is like um, really understanding the basics of drawing. And I think especially this is actually such a great question. It's like because we get a lot of portfolios. Like I look at so much work now, and you know if the basics aren't there, it's like every time you try to create your own ideas, it's gonna be spend so much time trying to make it look right versus like uh, capturing the cool idea you have. So I would say like always fundamentals like I would say one of the best things you can practice and always. What
I
about you?
totally agree. No, same. I think the fundamentals are generally just the thing over and over again that I see that needs work, and I think it's all even like as professional artists too.
Yeah,
It's the thing that we constantly have to come back to. I feel like it's
yeah,
like, oh, okay, yeah, now I need to brush up on, perspective, or now I need to brush up on line art or shape language or design or whatever it is. It never stops.
yeah, yeah,
Um, Things do get better, but it never stops.
yeah. Um, I agree.
And then there's another question here that says, what's oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's basically what's the best practices when starting off with illustration. Um, well, I see illustration as a little bit of it's like you have to be able to do a little bit of everything. You have to do a little bit of anatomy, you have to know about perspective, you have to know about light, you have to know about material definition, you have to know about composition. So it's like you're trying to kind of balance a bit of everybody or of all of the fundamentals essentially. Um, so I think when you're starting out, you definitely want to make sure that you know some of these. So it's like, like you have a bit of a base in anatomy, or you have a little bit of base in perspective, and then you kind of build from there. Because if you just start out and you just jump into an illustration, I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed and feeling a little bit discouraged. So just know that a little bit like you need kind of like to build out like the several parts of the engine before it can kind of do something like where several of the parts are needed in like to work in harmony in order to produce what it is that you're looking for. Especially if the goal is something like splash or something that just takes a lot of time to work up to, I would say.
Yeah. And I think it could lead up to just a lot of frustration uh, when struggling with that stuff. You know, it's like special illustration. It's like you said, you're combining everything, and if you're struggling with something, it's just gonna make it such a painful process to go through it. Uh, but yeah.
When was the most painful process for you? Like what would you say is like what was the hardest, like one of the most painful processes in terms of like art, of course, but like what was one that you really remember where you were just like struggling with a piece and you just weren't getting it, or yeah.
Uh, I think maybe it was when I first joined Splash, because it was so different from my personal style in painting and how Valorant was going, where everything was much more simplistic, you know, and like my background is like as an environment painter, so I never really like focused on on sculpting the forms fully, right? It's always been about simplifying it to the utmost. And then on Splash, it's like really defining it and sculpting it. So like the first paintings were trial by combat, you could say,
Yeah.
for my inner artistic soul. But I loved it. I loved it. It's I think those are moments where it's like you get to know yourself a bit better, you know, and it's like where uh, you can do more than you believe you can, you know. So what about you?
I mean, there was definitely several, I would say that several moments, especially also on Splash, that was really tough. Some went really easy, but others were complicated and stressful. But I think the one where I've recently been working on a thing for the thing that I'm currently hired for that I can't say.
Yeah,
But there was a moment there where I was like, how the hell do I achieve all of these things at the same time? And
yeah,
I was like, how the fuck do I do this? And I was like, and then when you're in that sort of place, you can talk to your friends and they can kind of help, kind of like calm your nerves.
yeah,
I think you just have to sit down and just be accept like that you are where you are in the process and you can't speed it up or anything. You just have to be present and kind of take it one step at a time, and it's gonna be slow, but it just takes time. So,
yeah.
but I'm really happy because I think it's one of my best pieces I've ever done. So
Okay.
I got through it, and I'm proud of it. But but it was fucking stressful. It was I was dying. I was like, I don't know, how do I do this?
But I think that's awesome because well, you're like 10 years into your career and you ran into something like that, you know,
Yeah.
even at that stage, right? So I think it's like, you know, everybody, no matter how far you get, right? There's always going to be something that'll be like this behemoth of a image to try and or illustration, whatever it is, to try and overcome. Which
Yeah.
I think that's the fun part about art. You know, it's like you never know what problem you might encounter.
Yeah, and I think also like with maybe that's like the thing, kind of going back to the question of like what to practice or whatever. It's like I think wherever you are, you always want to find that edge. Like it's really an edge of like you're out of your comfort zone, but it's achievable. You want to be on that edge all the time because you're if you're out of your comfort zone and the thing that you're aiming for is way like beyond your reach,
Yeah,
like you just can't do it. And again, you will feel demotivated and you'll feel defeated in a sense. And you if you do something that's in your comfort zone all the time, you won't really move as much. So that edge is like really perfect to see if you can be. So even if you're, 10 years in or whatever, you still struggle because you try to find where that edge is for you and then try to be there and push yourself.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
What would you say was the piece that you're the least proud of?
Ooh.
Like the one where you're like, fuck, I screwed up here.
Ah, man. Hmm. How do I think for myself it's like I always want to um, be able to stand behind every piece I make. And like, the typical thing is like you want to be able to um, have a new portfolio, right? That is like the definition of like this is good enough to go into my portfolio, right? Um, and I think it's like there was one piece I don't want to say, I don't say, but I was, it was like I just need to get this done, you know, and just move on with my life, forget it ever happened, and just forget it. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah. No, those are hard. It's like, oh man, it's like
yeah,
I totally I relate to the feeling. I've definitely felt that several times, and I think there was one I remember mine very clearly.
okay.
There's been several. There's Soul Stealer Vein, but I would say that one was partly me and also partly the process of how that went down. But Soul Stealer Vein, I was not very proud of. I
Let me
think,
see.
um, yeah, I had almost like rendered out the picture at one point,
Yeah,
but the anatomy and pose wasn't great. It wasn't quite there.
yeah.
So I got the feedback to change the body, and it like a pretty big change. I think it was like the entire like arms and lower body was completely changed, right? It was like
Oh
fuck. It's
no.
like and it was at the place where it's like I this was done. So it's like
Oh
I was
no.
like had to go back and do that. And the time was kind of was limited. So that one was painful. But and in that moment, in those moments, you just got to do whatever you got to do and try to pull through. But yeah, that was rough. And then the other one was Willbreaker, Nessus, and Hecarim. I remember that one being really tricky. I felt really good about it going into it. And then like they
Was
were kind of, huh?
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
No, they were kind of glowing up from the inside, so they were like purple and they were glowing up from the inside. I was like, how do I make a whole scene with these two giants that are kind of like glowing from the inside?
Yeah.
So that was tricky. I'm not very proud of that one, and I remember that was the I came to LA in that time, and I had to kind of sit and watch Alex wrap it up for me, and that felt shitty, right? Because you're like you don't want to feel like you're a burden to anybody,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I
It
felt
turned out
bad.
great in the end, though.
Yeah, it turned out okay. But I felt really bad because it was like I just kind of like arrived and I felt like Alex. had to kind of like clean up my mess.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, he's
and
so good.
he's awesome.
Yeah.
And I know too that Alex wouldn't think that like, oh, Ism, don't worry about it and everything. But
Yeah.
you know, young Ism definitely worried definitely worried about it.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I see that there's a bunch of questions, so let's just quickly do it. Marco, uh, is the brush using part of one of your brush packs? Oh yeah, so this is the two brush packs. So this is both basic and line decker. So this is part of the basic one, I believe. So this is I believe it's called the Triforce. I gave them names, but I normally just watch them as thumbnails here. So it's Triforce, and then for the smudger, I am using this one down here. It's also called hot number 168. So I'm using these two for this sort of demo and just doing that combination. So yeah, that's about it. Yeah, that's kind of like what I'm using. There's a question here. I think that's maybe for you. Let me just read it aloud. It says for Valorant slash LOL stylized art, what would you say are the basics to move towards that art style, and the best softwares for them? I'm applying to university next year and would like to gain some skills there.
I would say, I mean, you can use whatever software you want, right? But I think Photoshop is sort of the standard. You sort of get everything you need, but I know a lot of people use Studio Clip Paint, which is, I think it's a cheaper option as well. I think
Yeah, yeah,
they have a lot of really cool features that Photoshop doesn't even have, but I think Photoshop is the one I use, and I think you use it as well.
yeah, I do.
Uh, I think for Valorant at least, and maybe you can take League, is definitely like finding ways of simplifying shapes and forms. Uh, but to do that, you really have to understand the underlying structure of it as well, because to simplifying a shape and form that you don't quite get, it tends to look a bit weird. And I think that was one thing that we struggle. We spend a lot of time on the promo work for Valorant. Holy shit! And we look at them, they're like, oh, they're kind of simplistic, right? But it took so much time to find the cool shapes. And I know Suke, fucking fantastic artist, an amazing guy to work with. Josh as well. They were so great at just pushing us to really find the coolest shapes that we could find within the canvas we had to work with. So I would say for Valorant, it's like definitely like simplicity and finding the best shapes you can find.
Yeah, I think with that, I mean, especially for Valorant too, right? Because
Yeah,
it's so graphic, it's so punchy, it's like
yeah,
in your face. So totally agree. I think the graphicness is majorly important with Valorant. I think for League, it's similar, right? Especially whenever you're doing stylized stuff, it's you need to know a bit of realism because you're basically taking realism and you're stylizing it. So you can't really do that if you don't understand the structure and the kind of anatomy things are built on. So you're gonna need a fundamentals in anatomy, and then from there you can start to stylize. I would say. So it's a bit of both. Like, hmm,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, for League, it's like if it's splash art, you need to be good at like almost like you need to wield the all the fundamentals at least somehow, I would say in intermediate or above, um, for some of it, but you can also get away with, I guess, lacking a bit on some. But I think we all have like each our like superpower as artists. Like there's some things that we feel more comfortable with than others, and then you try to work on the areas that you're lacking a little bit in.
yeah,
But yeah, it's a tricky thing. It's something that takes a long time, essentially. Um, I think too with what you said with Clip Studio Paint. I think that's a really good place to start.
yeah,
And it's really like it's getting really really good. Like
yeah,
It's crazy what they're able to do, and it's also less expensive. And when you're
Yeah,
starting out, that is definitely a factor.
I,
So
I think
yeah,
Photoshop is too expensive, man. Like especially
yeah,
if you're starting out, man, that regular fee, if you don't even have income, it's too much, you know. But uh, yeah, and I know
I,
Studio Paint, they have a lot of. Uh, I played around with it a bit a few years ago. They had a lot of really cool tools. They had some 3D. They had these brushes. I think you maybe even showed it to me. It's like that
yeah,
randomly generates like foliage and stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Super super cool stuff. I really wonder if Photoshop will try to touch on that stuff as well.
Yep. Yeah, what it basically it doesn't just take one sample. It has like three samples that it switches between. I'm like, that was to me that was like, whoa, like
Yeah.
why is this not in Photoshop?
Yeah.
So yeah. There's somebody here. Rex asks, is it possible to become semi-professional in 5 years when you start out at almost zero?
Yeah. Of course. I I think. Can I go first on this one?
Absolutely,
uh,
absolutely. Go for it.
I think it's like there's a certain uh, mileage or chunk of work you need to go through, right? Whether you spread it over 10 years or uh, it's even possible probably in 1 year if you go super hard, you know? And it's just like how do you want to stagger it out? I think my mindset is like you sort of want to go through that as quick as possible so you can get to the good stuff, you know? We get to draw cool stuff for that you really want to draw, but you can easily do it in 5 years, right? It's just a certain amount of work you need to go through within those 5 years.
And I would say, I would say the other side of that things you get both. But I think it like I agree on most part also with what I'd say is saying. But I think remember too that the faster you do it, the higher a price you often pay.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
so that the more you push yourself in that sort of sense, you will also run into that, like your mental health might not do so well, or like you don't have a lot of you don't haven't really spent time, socializing or being with friends and stuff like that. And that sort of stuff you can start feeling after a bit too. I think as he also touched upon is like find that balance that feels right for you.
Yeah.
And then like you go for that. But 5 years I think is definitely doable. I think I started taking it more seriously when I was 18, and then uh, around what's that 4 years later, I was kind of I had my first internship in the industry where I met Ete, and that was 4 years. And I got my first job like 5.5 years after I started. So I
Yeah.
think it's possible.
I think so too.
What about you, Ete? Like, have you actually ever counted?
Uh, I think for me it was 2 years, but like you said, it definitely took a a health toll. I would say, and I went full hermit mode where I just like got into like just like the only thing is like how, and I was working full time at a point as well, so I had to balance uh, a job that it was like a, what do you call it? It was an internship, but it was mostly like I was running the office. It was like it's office manager.
You're like,
Or
yeah,
yeah,
you can, or like if you say it in like a sports term, I think it's called like a water boy.
yeah. What a voice sounds like. I just think about the movie with Adam Sandler. So I don't know if it was that, you know.
Okay, okay,
Uh,
no worries.
uh, but
But yeah, you're just doing everybody else's tasks that they didn't want to do.
yeah, like what I would buy them breakfast every Monday morning. I would like greet whenever there's deliveries and stuff, and that was like my full time job, right, at a commercial agency. Uh, And when I was doing that is like, you know, I had to do those 8 hours in a day. I could not get those 8 hours away from that work. And then I had to like, all right, how can I maximize getting whatever time I have left to drawing as much as I can? It's a trade-off, right? Because you only have so limited amount of time in your day, and what are you willing to trade off, right, for painting time? And I think it comes down to like how important is something to you, and making decisions based off of that.
Yep, totally agree.
There was a follow-up question here. Can you improve by going really slow? Do you think working 5 hours over a week over 10 years will work the same as doing the same amount in a year? What do you
Good
think
question.
about that?
I think no. Let me try to explain why. I think maybe there's a way. Maybe I'm completely wrong with this, but my gut reaction was a little bit no, because if it's over 10 years, um, then you have to remember too that the landscape is changing.
Yeah,
Like the technology is changing, and the industry is changing with it. And 10 years is a long time. Like a lot of stuff can happen in 10 years.
yeah,
So I think that might be too slow. Um, yeah, that's my gut feeling.
I think so too. And I think not only does the landscape change, your lifestyle is going to change as well. You,
Definitely true.
I think it would be hard, maybe impossible, but like to keep that because think about it like after 10 years, do you want an entry job, right? Uh, if you start when you're 20, do you want to start a brand new career when you're 30? Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. Maybe the current job you're at, you feel like it'd be too much of a step back. And I think at that age in particularly, I don't think many people are willing to do that, right? So it's also thinking about like not only uh, the industry will change, but like where are you going to be in your life 10 years from now, which is probably going to be a massive change. So
Very good point. Very good point. Yeah, no, it's a good question though. It's like I never thought of it that way, but
yeah.
it's good. So basically, Rolo here says, "Lol, Ete the water boy, gotta start somewhere."
Yeah, yeah. I even had a tier below that where I started. I did.
So
God,
yeah,
it
no,
was so awful. It was. You see these people who cut grass. I think I told you the story probably several
yeah, you
times.
did. Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but like I was working where you cut grass basically for like 3 months, and where you walk around with these machines that just shreds everything. It's like they have like a wire that just evaporates grass. Uh, and everything in the grass as well. And where I was working, like people were just not picking up after their dogs. And if you hit a turn, man, you just get sprayed and shit. You know,
No,
it was so goddamn awful. It happens so often as well.
I forgot that part.
Yeah. So I'd say the water boy was a tear up, but yeah, you gotta start somewhere, right?
Gotta start somewhere.
Yeah.
Totally. Um, I remember my first job. I told you this too. I think we had like a talk or something in the studio about these sort of things. But first job was in a sawmill, like where we had to like kind of like glue two pieces of tree together and then kind of put it this through this like cutter, right? And then glue two pieces together and put it through the cutter. It's like very labor
Yeah.
uh repetition and just like not very fun. But
Yeah.
I lasted like 2 weeks and then I was like, can't do this. I
Yeah.
was like, I want to do something else. And I was like 14, I think, at the time. Uh,
Yeah.
so I was very young, and my dad was like kind of like, hey, try it out, see if you like it, and it was through like a friend. So but I was like, can't. This is not it. And then essentially, when on my 15th birthday, I remember this super clearly. On 15th birthday, I get a call because I had dropped application. There's a nearby zoo, like a place that has like animals and all that. So I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
working. I applied to a zoo um and they called and asked me if I wanted the job. I was like, absolutely. And it was kind of like a little bit like a water boy too, like filling up the store.
Yeah.
bringing in boxes, all that, and cleaning the toilets.
Oh no.
I know, and I'll never like remember, like I'll never forget some of the toilets that I had to clean. It's just like
Oh god.
some people just don't know how to use the toilet. That's all I can say.
No.
But I ended up being there for 5 years. I worked there from I was 15 to I was almost 21,
Yeah.
and
But did you go
and
up in tiers or were you
yeah,
just like
yeah. No, no,
okay, okay.
I didn't clean toilets for 5 years.
Okay, okay.
So yeah, no, no, I definitely went up in tiers. So and it was a great place to work, honestly. I learned so many valuable things there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important getting those experience, no matter how no pun taken, how shitty it is. But
Oh my God.
it is important to do those.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. Let's see. There's some more questions here. One sec. Let me see. Rex asks, I get the stuff that you mentioned. One have to go through first before reaching the good stuff is fundamentals, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you want to answer that? I got a little bit confused here.
Sorry, can you repeat it?
I don't know. Is this? I guess it's stuff. So basically, stuff that you mentioned had that one had to go through first before one reaches the good stuff is fundamentals, right? Yeah, I would say definitely start at fundamentals. It's
Yeah.
um like sometimes like a lot of people they like I want to do like and then they would say like incredible, illustration that somebody has taken like I don't know like 70 years or something to work up to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit like kind of like looking at an Olympic, I don't know, athlete and kind of be like, I want to do that. But it's like, yeah, you got to go through all the training and all the running and
Yeah.
before you're able to run at that speed and all that. So you start with the basics and then slowly over time, you'll improve and you'll get better and you'll push the boundaries
Yeah.
in that sort of sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think especially like when you see people's YouTube video, or even when you just see a finished painting, right? You never see like all the hidden work behind it, and it's just easily be like, uh, I want to do that. I remember I used to watch uh, Feng Zhu's videos back on YouTube. Like this was probably 10 years ago, you know, where he would do like these amazing speed paints, right? Like he just put a silhouette down and just make these coolest things out of these silhouettes, even though it looked like blobs from the beginning. I'd be like, this is so easy, everybody can, everybody can do this. Obviously, you just put blobs and then you just put some highlights and you have a spaceship, right? Or like a really cool gun, and it's just so much hidden knowledge that you don't see when someone at least I didn't know that when he was doing these demos so
I have a great analogy for that one. It's like watching the cars of the or the wheels of the car turn without having any clue about what is happening inside.
yeah, 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 yeah,
So yeah, it's a lot of parts that are working uh, in sync with each other.
yeah.
There's a question here that says, "How do you maintain your own personal style when working on other IP styles all the time?"
You want to start?
I was about to think like if you were gonna take this one. I can start. Hmm, how do you maintain? I mean, I think if you're working on somebody like if you're working on somebody else's project all the time and you don't have time to kind of like oh sorry, if you don't have time to work on any of your own personal work, that just takes a toll over time. You can do it for a bit, but if you don't do anything for yourself, from at least speaking from personal experience, it really affects me. Like, I'm not happy in that sort of sense. So, in an ideal world, you would. carve out a little bit of time for you to do kind of a little bit of yours too. But I understand too, sometimes you're feeling exhausted after work and you just don't feel like sitting down and draw some more when you get back home. Um, but I think that your style or your personal taste and all that will always kind of be there. Sometimes it's a little bit like biking. If you worked in another style for a long time, you kind of have to come back to it and you have to kind of like rediscover it too. And I think is style for me, and maybe I'm not the right person to talk about with style because I guess I'm a little bit of a jack of all trades, where I think it's more like I see styles uh, as just as anything else in terms of image making. So you can have a preferred style, of course, but if you, let's say, if you have to make a picture that is very lighthearted and fun, and have to kind of communicate those feelings, then making something that is more stylized, something that's bright in colors, that sort of style, right, is better at communicating that than something that's very muted and realistic. Uh, Muted and realistic often gets kind of like to be more serious or more mature because it's realism essentially. It's not it's that sort of sense of fantasy, but you can of course twist it and flip it. But I definitely see styles as something that you can change depending on what it is that you're trying to communicate or working on. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's a static thing, and I think it's always moving. So like sometimes when we say my style, like it's gonna come out the way it's gonna come out, and then that's gonna be my style. Yeah. What do you think, Getse? Maybe you think completely different
I think
on this.
I agree with everything you said. I think it's actually I would add to it. I think it's super important that you do your own work, outside of whatever work you do for someone else, because I think I saw actually without saying any name of someone who uh, all their work they did was for a company, right? Um, and when that work gets scrapped, it feels really bad if you don't have any personal work, because like if all the work you do is like commercial work and then that doesn't get used, it kind of feels like you failed as an artist because that's all you did, right? And I think it's kind of important to have a bit of a detachment where you do the commercial work or for whoever you're working with and really try to adapt to the style, but you always have to have your own thing that you go back to, and especially like for the you need that sandbox time. I think it's really important to keep growing, because I also think that is like a way of keeping your sometimes you know frustration sometimes can be frustrating if you don't agree with feedback and stuff, is to know that you can always do your takes on your own things in your own time. It's really important. Um, but I think also like you can always adapt to different styles, and like you can always get things to feel consistent. But at the end of the day, like for me, like I can tell from all the splashes, I know exactly who painted what. you know,
Yeah.
but I think maybe someone who isn't an artist or worked on the team, it might be harder to tell. But it's for me, it's very distinct who painted what, and they have all their own unique flavors to it. Even though it's under one big umbrella. So does
Totally.
that yeah,
I
sorry.
yeah, I love yeah, that's a great I think that's I honestly think that's a great way of saying it because I think a lot of people when they look at something like splash art, right? It's like it feels all the same or it feels cohesive, which
Yeah,
is good because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to say like, hey, how can we take all these different voices and find a way to make sure that it all feels like it fits in the same universe and everything.
yeah,
But I totally agree. I can tell if something is a Alex Flores or a Pan or
yeah,
whatever. It's like
yeah,
like you can just tell. Their little choices and everything, and that just shines through. So even though we're trying to work on something like that, the style still comes through. It's your hand that will do its movements a certain way because that's just how it does.
yeah. And I think that's awesome. It gives everything that unique flavor to something. And I think it would be a shame if a project didn't have that or like a yeah without.
I agree.
Yeah,
Totally. I think also like the way you, for example, did splashes was you can tell that it was you, right? It's like it had like that touch to it. So
yeah,
um yeah, so yeah, don't worry too much about your own style. But I think the main thing is I think the main point from our answers was more make sure that you're doing things for you.
yeah,
That's important. And then style will naturally follow. So don't worry so much about the style. Just make sure that you at least carve out some time for you so everything doesn't just become um, student work or not student work, client work.
yeah. It was actually. Uh, I heard that from. It's one of Craig Mullen's demos. I don't remember which one. Um, but he brought up this, and it makes so much sense, because to really grow as an artist, you have to to learn how to draw. You're just failing a bunch of times, right? You're not making
Yeah, so
successful
true.
images, right? You just try stuff out. It doesn't work. You learn something, but and you need that freedom to grow. But I think in a professional environment, it's the opposite, where you
Yeah,
cannot do that. It has to work every single time. And that sort of like counters the way of how you want to grow as an artist. Uh,
yeah,
so that's where he was saying, which I really, really agree with. It's like you need that balance of time where you uh, just fail, right? It doesn't have to be anything successful. You can try whatever you want to try. I think personal work is like the best way to do it. And then you have the commercial time where you approach it with, you can experiment a bit, right? It doesn't have to be bulletproof, but the success rate have to be there, right? Uh, so
totally agree. It's such a hard balance to do sometimes. Like
yeah,
I remember the days where I would go to work, right, work on Splash and come home, and I would just not feel like drawing anything.
yeah,
I was just so tired and done, and I didn't have any energy. So I think that that's also why like for example with what I'm doing now with the speed painting in the morning and the warm-up paintings, I feel energized. I feel like I'm ready to work.
yeah,
And I also feel like I was productive and I created something for me just like in an hour and that's okay. And then I can kind of like you know move on with the day. So I think that's honestly it's a really great ritual that I'm planning to keep.
yeah. Someone is asking, any specific artists you've taken inspiration from?
Can I start with that one?
Yeah, yeah, go for it, go for it.
Joe Mad.
Yeah,
Joe Mad, Paul Richards, Paul Bonner, Jesper Rising. Man, there's too many. The list is long. Ian McKick, Craig Mullins, Alex Flores, Jason Chen, Marko Djordjevic. Uh, man, there's too many. Like,
yeah,
yeah, there's so many good artists out there, and there's so many good artists that like you never heard of,
yeah,
like that don't do any sort of like social media or anything. They're just beasts, and they're hiding out there they're lurking in the shadows. But
yeah,
once you know them, you're like, holy moly! Like, cannot believe that this person is existing, and the world does know about it in that sort of sense. Or a lot of people don't know about them. Like, there's some of those people that are just absolutely incredible, and they're just not. They don't want to do that sort of whole social media thing. They're just in it for the creativity and all that. And that's all respect to that man. But there's some good ones. To name a few, Peral, sorry, Gerald Peral.
yeah,
Gerald is incredible. He does it a little bit, but not as much. Roberto Castro,
yep,
you know the two.
yeah,
Uh, beast,
yeah,
beast. I cannot believe how good that man is.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and there's many, 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 many more. So yeah.
I,
What about you? Like, who inspired you?
Um, a lot of the name you mentioned, but I think for me, one of like probably really, really big ones was probably Mullins, and there's a Swedish artist called John Liberto. Uh, Fantastic guy. I actually got to meet him once as well. We interviewed him for Riot. I pushed so hard to get him on board, but things just didn't line up. Absolutely amazing guy. And what he did, this was like really early days where there's like a Swedish forum where there was like a thread where it's like a speed paint thread. And it was him and a few other people, but I remember particularly him. He would just post these incredible images. And it's like, this was really early. If you look at like concept art, like if you go back 10 years, it looks completely different quality. And I
Yeah,
feel like him and Mullins, they were several other artists. They were really ahead of the curve on what good concept art could look like or illustration, like digitally. And that was like just every time I went to that thread, my mind just got blown. You know, so that was super super cool to see. And about the hidden artist, like the how do you call it? I remember there was. I always wondered about this. This was also really early when I was getting into it, and this is for was for I might have been for Battlefield 2, and there was these paintings that were just fucking fantastic. Environments, characters. There was someone who was absolutely incredible who worked on those games. I had no idea who it was, and I tried so hard to figure that out. Maybe one day I'll find out. Uh, but I always used to look at those paintings and just like, who is this incredible mystery artist? uh, so yeah,
yeah. No, there's so many of them out there. It's
yeah,
it's really incredible.
yeah,
I don't know. I'm really happy. Like it's we get so much good art in these times where it's like it can just be it can be shared more easy than without the internet. So
yeah,
very lucky.
yeah,
I think there's a bunch of questions. I'm sorry, like I get to the chat once in a while. Here says this is from Kuya Yapi, JP. Sorry, Kuya JP. I assume this is from the Philippines because Kuya means brother, but I'm not sure. Let's see. You mentioned having no energy at some point. How did you recharge your batteries while still working full time, Espen? I can start, and then I would love to hear you too, Ete, because sometimes I think what works for one person might not work for another.
yeah,
But I think also sometimes there are overlaps. Um, so for me, when I was feeling um, like kind of burned out, there are several things. I think first off, try to see if you can take work off. Like just you know, just ask for it, and if you have any holidays left or you can take vacation days, try to take them. Um, Time off definitely works. Um, yeah, that's one. If that's not a possibility, um, I think exercise does a whole lot, especially to me. Like if I definitely feel that if I'm not moving my body or anything, it drastically affects my mood.
yeah,
So exercise is key. Or getting out in nature, like hiking or being in a forest or whatever it is. Like get away from that screen.
yeah,
Get out, get some air, spend time with people. Very simple sort of things, but like socialize, move your body, be in nature.
yeah.
Like that always worked for me. Those three things. But yeah, what about you, Ate?
Uh, I think I would agree with the exercise thing. Especially the mood, man. Like I sometimes when I haven't exercised, I feel like more on edge, right? But every time,
Yeah,
especially when you do it in the morning, it's like such a clear contrast in your emotion.
yeah,
And I'm guessing it's I read somewhere that you release something in your body. I forgot the name of it. And it just you feel better.
Is it
But
serotonin?
yeah, I think so. I don't remember exactly, but
Okay.
it really helps with your well-being as a person.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think for me, what has always helped is sort of knowing where you want to go, like as an artist and as a person. And I think when times get tough, if you don't know where you're going, where you're steering that ship, you know, uh, it can get very difficult, I would say. But as long
I
as you
agree.
have that compass, even though there's a lot of fog, maybe, there's, I don't know, sharks in the water, whatever you want to call it, you know where you're going.
Yeah. And even if you don't know kind of like where you're going, I definitely had moments of in my career where it's like I don't know where I'm going.
Yeah,
Like I'm figuring that out. And I can also be like it can be really hard. It can be hard because you feel like, like what's this sort of thing, but I think in those moments sometimes, allowing yourself just to be present with where you are right now, and
yeah,
then you can definitely, make a plan for the future. And I think you need that in some sort of way of like, because you have an ideal, within you too that kind of lets it bugs you when you're not like living up to it or doing what you're supposed to do.
yeah,
So you gotta also listen to that sort of inner voice of like, like, oh, I should probably do something about this. But I think, yeah, I agree. I think I started exercising way more and lifting weights again after coming back to Denmark, and it changed everything. I was so much more productive,
yeah,
and just felt way better. So
yeah,
if you don't know where to start, just start with exercising. Just do it 3 times a week. Start there. Like, don't do a million things. Just start doing one thing and start simple. And then you need to get the ball rolling. And there's only one way to do it, which is slow. There's this really nice quote. I would love to hear what you think about it, but because
okay.
when I heard it, I was like, oh, I love it.
Okay.
Um, and it says, the fastest way to get where you want to be is slowly.
Hmm. I think that's pretty good. Uh,
Right?
yeah, because it's also about the journey. It's not about the destination, right? You know,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
it's just gotta. I think sometimes it's hard. You get a bit caught up in, at least for myself. It's just like, oh, gotta get there, gotta get there. But it's like not really enjoying the now, which is something I just need to work on. But yeah, it's a work in progress.
And it's a balance, I think, because if you're too much in kind of like the now or something, like what it can also happen is you kind of you don't think about the future, right? Or you don't plan for it, or so
Yeah,
it's a bit of both. I think you need to be dynamic. I think you need to be able to switch between of like, hey, now I need to start making, like some sacrifices so that, in a
yeah,
future situation that I stand stronger. So
yeah,
it's a constant struggle between the two, and I think both needs to be there. It's not just one.
yeah.
Um, let's see. Um, let's see. By the way, I had a chance to draw next to you during the light box. I didn't really get the chance to say it, but it was a real pleasure. No worries. It was a pleasure to draw with you two, Vince. Um, but yeah, do you have any questions on your end on your stream, and we can take some of those.
Yeah, someone is saying, do you have any higher education? Did it help you if you do? Do you wanna go first? Because I know you have.
Because I know that you have. Uh, sure, I'll start.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I do. I have a bachelor degree. So essentially, I took high school, and after high, it was funny because my how do you say, my education guidance person in elementary school told me that I shouldn't apply for high school because he thought that I wouldn't make it.
Okay.
And I was like, you can't tell me that. Like, it's like
What
I
the
got
hell?
so mad. I got so mad, and I was like, I'm gonna prove you wrong. And then I did it. But I that was also what I wanted to do. But I think he put a bit more extra fire on that, or a bit more wood on that fire.
Yeah.
But I finished that, and I wouldn't say I was a great student. I think I was a very average student.
Yeah.
But I did it, and then I did took a bachelor degree at a place that's called the Animation Workshop, which is in Viborg in Denmark. And it's a really good school. I It's been a long time since I've been there, so I don't know if it's the same, but I back then it was really good. Um, and really enjoyed it. I think the thing that I learned the most from was the people, my fellow students, um, and just kind of like seeing how everybody was working differently. And I remember we were having so many very talented people in our in our what's it called class, and like there's this guy called Frederick Storm too, which was like he was working early with ZBrush, and he was so fast, and everybody was just like, what the like what is this person like who is this person? It's like, and he's a student, and he
Yeah.
was way better than one of like several of our instructors.
Oh man.
So
What
yeah,
does
yeah.
he do
So
now?
I believe he has his own studio called Monkey Tennis, and
Oh,
like a
okay.
small animation studio. I'm not quite sure if he's still doing that, but that he was doing that for a bit. Um, but wonderful, wonderful guy, very stylized, very expressive and everything. But um, I've never used the bachelor degree really. Like nobody has really asked for it. I think the only time where it came in handy was when I had to apply for a visa for the US. But it's not necessary to have a bachelor in order to get a visa. But I think it helped a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's it. Nobody cares if you have a bachelor degree in arts or something. They only care if you can make a pretty product, like or a good product, you know. That's it.
Yeah.
They don't care about your degree. But what about you, Ate? What
Yeah, I really wanted to go to school, but like I didn't know about the one in Denmark at the time. But the ones I looked at was Art Center and FCD, and for the budget I have, which was $0, it was too much. Uh, and the Swedish ones I never got into, so I had to sort of like learn on my own. But I would say also kind of same where whenever you apply somewhere, the degree is not like what matters, just the portfolio. But what has been said is true. Is like I remember we applied for visa as well. That's where like it would have made things a bit quicker and faster if I had some degree of a sort. But other than that, I don't think for any job they would ever ask for that.
I would agree. Like, do you ever ask, like, now that you're in the position of hiring people, like, do you ever ask somebody if, like, hey, do you have a master's degree or do you have a
No,
bachelor's degree?
no, no.
Oh, good.
Uh,
Good, good.
It's people actually write it though, but it's really like I just go to portfolio straight away because that's it's sort of irrelevant for the work we do if you have a degree or not. I think for other professions it is important. But I think for art in particular, it's purely on what you can do and you can easily show it. Whether you have a degree or not, it doesn't make the difference.
Yeah. I think and I think especially if you're, let's say you're living in the US, I'd say be careful because I think that there's a lot of schools there that are extremely expensive and where you know it's just not worth it. So if you're in the States, you're thinking about a school or something like,
Yeah,
consider doing something online because there's a lot better online options out there.
yeah.
Especially in these days, the information is out there. It's just it's not worth getting in a huge debt if you can avoid it. If that's where you are in your in your journey. So
That's
yeah.
actually
But
a great
Yeah.
call out because I think not only that to add upon it, you can probably find like more condensed like art programs from artists or even a mentorship, right? That's
Yeah.
also something that, you can sort of pick the teacher that you want if they, because I know a lot of artists nowadays, they offer mentorships, there is the more classroom oriented, but there's also like the more individually targeted ones as well, so there's a lot of options of learning, and I think um, especially for US, probably more cost-effective ways than going to a school, I think.
Definitely. Definitely. Let's see. Um, Here's one. It's from Edit Eka. It says, "What is your view about using someone else's work as Post's reference for your own work? Is it considered cheating or copying other artists?" What do you think, Ate?
Uh, I think if you're learning, use as much of other people's work as you want, like reference it, copy it, do whatever you want if your personal work, but whenever you work for someone else, I would try to stay away from that and look like you can obviously reference things, but don't copy stuff one to one. Like rather find stuff in the real world or your own poses. But if you look for stylization, I think it's great to look at other people's work. But I would be careful with using someone's work for like official commercial work. What about you?
One. I think you can. I mean, reference. I'm not opposed to reference, but if I think it's if it is one to one, yeah, you want to be careful with that for
Yeah.
sure. You can see if you can take the essence maybe from what it is that you find that it's doing really well, and then add to it, or kind of like do it in your way, or but it needs to look different than whatever it is that you're aiming for. So
I
yeah,
think
it's a slippery slope, and I think it's definitely worth being careful with it.
I think what's really great, the one you did with the line decker stream, where you took a style, but you sort of did your own, like, it's a different subject, but it's same, like you're clearly referencing an artist. I think that is super, super cool and really valuable. And I think you even can learn a lot by doing that. So I think that's, I don't know where they can, is it on Proco's channel or is it
Yeah,
on
it's
yours?
no, it's on Proko's channel.
Yeah.
So essentially, it's called, if you just look up Esben Rasmussen or Esben Lash, and or you just write Esben and Leindecker in the same thing, it should pop up there. But that started out as kind of like, in the start, I really like Leindecker and his work, and I wanted to study and try to understand and break it down and try to understand how he was thinking, and yeah, and then started with kind of just copying, right, doing master studies, and then eventually over time I was kind of getting more of a hang of it, and then one study led to the other, and then I started to do like a Garen in a sort of Leyendecker style. It's like, oh, that went okay. It's like some of the things started to stick, and then Proco reached out if I wanted to do a collaboration, and then I was like, okay, let's do it. And then that little study kind of like grew into becoming a beast of making both like a YouTube video, which I hadn't fully really done before that, and also like using this sort of knowledge and these studies, and that was hardcore. I think because I had to paint that after work, after or before work, and I think in total it was like 12 hours or maybe 13, 14 hours. It was a long time. I feel really bad for the people that had to edit all of that footage
Yeah.
because they made it look so good, but
Yeah.
like I was yawning, I was like sitting with my
Oh no.
hands just like being frustrated. I was like, or I think there's even a point where it's just like sitting and swearing. Sorry, swearing when I was just like sitting and drawing. It's just like, this is shit. This is bad. This is horrible. It's just like, being, so it's just part of it.
Yeah.
It's just part of it. But I think we kind of covered the question. Do you have one on your end?
On question,
Yeah.
I think we can both take this one from Adrian. I'm gonna butcher the last name, so I'm not gonna say it. But do you miss LA? How was the transition coming back to Europe?
Oh, we both take that. That's actually great.
Yeah,
Oh,
you go.
uh, okay. Well, coming back was incredible. Um, I do not miss LA. I miss,
Not even a bit.
yeah, no. I
What?
mean, okay, maybe a little bit, but I would say it's mostly some of the people there, I
Yeah,
think. And then I do miss a bit of the surfing. I do
mm,
miss the hikes, the
yeah,
hiking areas around. That was my main thing. Um, I do miss the food. The food was really amazing.
yeah,
Um, so there are things that I miss, but overall, not so much. It was a really great time. I was really happy that I did it. I'm happy that I took the journey. I'm happy that I did it. But it was time to go back. And then when it was time to go back, it was really hard to make that decision
yeah,
because there's a lot of uncertainties with that.
yeah,
Um, um, but I think it's one of the best decisions I've made in my life. So,
yeah,
uh, but it was also one of the hardest ones, I would say. So, but yeah, don't miss LA particularly much. I really like the current situation and being closer to family and being able to kind of like get that quality time and all that is it means so much more in the long run, like I think that's really what it comes down to. You have to think about like a long term and you have to kind of like plan for long term
yeah,
in the sense of like if I stayed in LA for the next 5-10 years or maybe the rest of my life,
mm,
how would my life look like then? Or if I then went back to Denmark, how would my life look like then? And you would try to like run that simulation, right?
yeah,
And for me, I think I value family too much.
yeah,
Whereas like, I kind of want to have a family of my own
yeah.
and at some point, and I want them to have a relationship with my parents. I want to be able to lean on my parents when I'm gonna need that.
You're
Um,
gonna need that. I can tell
yeah,
you
I'm
that.
gonna need that.
Yeah,
So like I don't think I'm gonna be lying on my deathbed, kind of like thinking about, the splashes I did and how proud I feel about the splashes. Like, no, it's gonna be wishing I had more time with the people I love. I
yeah,
think that's really like most of the things that are really meaningful to us are often built in terms of around people. So,
yeah,
and I think, even when I think about my time there, I think about the people. Like
yeah,
the colleagues were awesome. Like,
yeah. I agree
um,
with that.
yeah. But it was fun because one part was of somebody asked it. We were having a little stream on my Discord yesterday. Somebody asked the same thing, and the whole thing about like this would be funny to hear what you think about this one too. But the whole part about It's Always Sunny in LA, I thought that was what I wanted when I first kind of got there, and I loved it in the start.
Yeah.
But after a while, I just didn't enjoy it
Really?
because I felt yeah, because I felt like it was the same day that just repeated over and over again. Like
Okay.
there's no seasons. There's no
Yeah.
seasons to kind of like remind me of like where in the year we were.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I look back and I was like, boom, that was the year. I look back, boom, that was another year. It's like it goes so fast.
Yeah.
Um and I did not miss that part. And then also, if it's really great weather outside and I'm sitting inside in front of a computer and working and drawing, I feel bad about sitting inside of the computer and drawing.
Yeah.
So when it's gray outside, it's gray and it's rainy, I'm like, hell yes. I'm like, make it, make a cup of coffee and then just sit inside, work, be in front of the computer, and I feel great about it. It's like this is cozy, this is
Yeah.
wonderful. But maybe that's just me. I'm a weird person sometimes. So, but how about you? Essay, how was your experience?
Uh, Man, I really liked LA. I think also, like you said, obviously some things like traffic I was not a fan of. And I think the food was amazing. The people working, like, I didn't get to know too much people outside of work, but the people at work were absolutely fantastic. But I think, like, kind of like like with wanting to be closer to family because we're starting a family, was like, all right, what would it be like to, if we don't do that, right? If we fully commit to, because, if you have a family, I don't think you want to move continent. Uh, and we're instead of running the same simulation, it's like, all right, we stay here, we have the family, it's gonna be so hard for our kid to see my parents or my wife's parents, because it's such a distance to travel, because they're all in Europe, and we felt like uh, it would be better to be closer to them, for the kid and both for us, Uh, I like the sun. I think it's really nice, especially like in Santa Monica, because you get a bit of breeze. But as soon as you went inlands, it's like it turned instantly to a sauna. if there is
Yep.
no AC, man, it gets very, very warm. But yeah, I miss the food a lot and the people. But I think other aspects, like my neighbor, I did not miss, who used to play a lot of music. So, uh,
I assume it wasn't good music.
no, no, it was not good music.
Okay.
Yeah, they had a band. That's all I have to say.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I totally get you. Um, but yeah, like, so what would you say, like, is some of the surprise, like, was there anything kind of moving back to Sweden that kind of surprised you that you kind of like came back and saw a new light, like something that you maybe took for granted before? Was there anything there?
Mm, I don't know. Uh, Taxes. I forgot how high they were in Sweden. I did not miss that, but yeah. I think that probably the weather was a different, like the food again. Like Sweden, I love Swedish food. It's fantastic, but it's very different from LA food. But yeah, uh, I like both. But I think for us, having a family made more sense in Sweden than in LA.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
I hope that answered it. That was a good question. That's actually like it's a big thing, but it's also like I think it depends on where you're from. Like it depends on what other options you have because every like one of my friends, he's called Igor. He was from Kazakhstan, and Kazakhstan and LA. I think also like I would prefer LA.
Yeah.
So there's also like some things of like okay, like then you have to make a choice, and each choice have some pros and cons and sacrifices to it. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, no, like it depends on whatever country it is that you have in the background too, and I think we're very spoiled on that end. I think both Sweden and Denmark are
Yeah. I think
are are solid countries.
I think so too.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Uh, Let's see. What food did LA have? Hey, frogs. Um, what food did LA have? I mean, they have everything. Like, so that's the good part. It's like everything is there,
Yeah.
and it's amazing quality. Like the Mexican food in LA was great. Especially because we don't really have that much in Europe.
Yeah.
So oh my God, I love the Mexican cuisine.
Yeah.
And then Japanese is great. Like, what was your favorite spot in LA? Like, what was your go-to spot?
Oh man. For breakfast or for lunch or for dinner? because they're all different.
Let's do breakfast and dinner.
Okay. I think for breakfast, I think I told you about the place, but I was on a quest with my wife to find. First, the quest started with finding the best pancakes in LA. So we used to go to every Saturday, go to a different diner, and my wife would order something different each time, but I was always ordering pancakes. Like I wanted to find the best pancakes there was. Uh, and then the quest changed to finding the best eggs Benedicts, which is really, really tasty dish. And we landed on, or I landed on, there was a place called the Snug Harbor. Incredible breakfast. I think I recommended it to you as well, but super, super good. Um, and for lunch, and Snug Harbor is like traditional American, I think, with a bit of mix, but very, 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 very nice. And probably one of the favorite dinner places I think was a place called Din Tai Fung, which was in a mall, and it's like I think it was Chinese, like a bunch of smaller dishes, but it was incredible the food. I think about it still. So, yeah. What about you?
Uh, Kasunori.
Oh, the
Love
hand
that
rolled
place.
sushi.
The hand rolled
Oh,
place. Yeah,
dude, that was amazing.
I would go there whenever I could.
Yeah,
I really I love that place.
yeah.
And that's like Japanese hand rolls.
I love that place as well.
Just so good.
Yeah,
I think that was food there is just incredible. Essentially, food
yeah.
is really, really, really good there. And you can get everything. Like it has everything there. So
And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And particularly like in Santa Monica, it's very competitive, so everybody has to make great food, to be able to pull in the customers. But it was really nice.
And it's actually fairly well priced too compared to eating out, for example, in Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, depends on, of course, where you are in Europe. But at least from Denmark, it's really really good prices.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
Let's see. Uh, Somebody's asking what tablet do you use? Do you want to start?
I work with Cintiq. Uh, I don't remember which one. I think it's 22 Pro, but that's the one I use.
Was it the one we had at the office?
I think so. Yeah.
I think that's the 22 HD something.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I
called
think
22
that's the one.
HD.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I normally use an Intuos. I've been using an Intuos for a very long time, so it's just muscle memory, I think. But I am currently trying something that's, I guess, similar to a Cintiq or drawing sort of screen, which is the Huion Canvas 24 Pro or 22 Pro or 24 Pro. Um, and with the whole kind of like 100K milestone, we did a competition. It's still going, so if you don't know, essentially you can win. There's free tablets from Huion on the line, so that's still there. It's on Esben Lash, the Instagram there. Shameless plug, um, but it's there if you still want to sign up. You just have to like and then tag two friends. But it's still going. But as part of that thing was like I was, agreed to also say like, hey, I'm gonna give a review on this product of theirs, and I'm trying it out and kind of like gathering my feels on it. So far, I really like it. I actually would dare to say I actually think it's better than the Wacom Cintiq.
Ooh. Okay.
I know, but it's so far I'm really impressed, and
Yeah.
it's way cheaper than Wacom.
I think that's good. They've been sitting on that throne for a while, and it's a pretty hefty price tag for a Cintiq, you know.
Yeah,
It's good to get some competition.
I agree. I agree. I'm reviewing that right. I'm trying that out and playing around with it. And then there'll come a review at some point. But really good stuff so far. Really like it. Um, yeah. and it has a 4K monitor. It's actually the monitor is incredible. Anyway,
That's
I'll,
awesome.
need, I'll talk about it more in the review. Let's talk about something else.
Okay.
The winners and gets picked on the 25th. Be careful because there's scammers out there. I've reported them and I've done whatever I can, but look out for them. They will contact you, say that you're the winner, and send you a link and whatever, and don't respond to it. Just please report them and block them. But on the 25th, I will announce it. I will write it in the stories. So on Esben Lash, not any of the fake ones, but on mine, um, I'll put it up in the stories who won. I'll reach out to them personally. Um, and we'll figure it out from there. And then essentially, we'll find out how the shipping goes. But as far as I talked with Juan, they're gonna send it from their office to the lucky winners. So we'll have three winners, but it will be announced on the 25th on my stories. Yeah.
That's awesome. Someone's gonna get a Christmas gift.
Yeah, and it's the winners are gonna get picked randomly. There's absolutely no system. My hope is that it's gonna be because I was thinking about like, hey, how should we do this? Like, and I was like, hey, maybe people can do a drawing and then enter in this competition. But I was like, no, because then, essentially, then they're gonna be judged on the drawing or whatever, and there has to be criteria for that. And then a person who really needs it will not, will not get
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So it's gonna be picked at random, and I hope it gets out to somebody who can really use it.
That's cool.
Um, let's see options here. Oh, this might be fun. This is a longer one. What does it say? It's from Eddie Deka. Um, what kind of practice do I need to do to draw better clothes or costumes in characters? Cause I used to draw the figure without it, so it's kind of bad when I'm drawing it
That one's for you, man. You're the character person.
now. You're the character.
Yeah,
You're
that's
the. I think it's like the main thing is just it's gonna be there's definitely a bunch of tutorials on how clock falls and how gravity kind of works on that. So go to not Instagram, Pinterest. Go to Pinterest, write drapery. How to draw drapery. And you can find a bunch of tutorials and stuff and explanations on how folds and gravity kind of work and how it's kind of wrapped around the form. But it's good that you know anatomy because then you know what the structure is underneath, and then now you have to put another kind of layer on top of it. But the structure underneath will dictate how it's gonna how the behavior of the cloth is from there.
to add
So
a
that would be my advice. Yeah.
to add a bit more to his question. Would you say it's better for him to learn how to invent folds? Should he take his own reference? How should he proceed when he does his own paintings?
Well, I don't know if it's a guy or a girl, so I don't want to
Oh,
presume. But
yeah,
it might be a girl. But Uh,
whoever
reference
asks.
is good.
Yeah.
It's all good. Reference is good. I think. Did you do that? As it when you're doing drapery, do you do like your own reference?
Yeah, my wife would be posing. Like we even buy like I know particular for not even just draper, like for if there's a specific material I have no idea how to paint. Like when I did True Damage Kiana, I bought like this fake glass diamond for $10 just to see how reflections work inside of it.
Nice.
So yeah, I definitely like to do poses.
Well, I think that's smart. Like have like a little kind of like riff studio. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that would be good too. Do you have a question on your end?
Uh, There is a question on how it is to run the Studio Envar if I paint anymore from PS Do, uh, character environment or the art for Arcane, or is just management. So to answer that one is like honestly I don't get to paint as much. Uh, as I would like anymore. It's mostly like feedback or support. I haven't. When we started the studio, I would take on a few tasks to do them as well. But as most of the day just gets pulled away to helping the rest of the team, I sort of had to put a rule. It's like, okay, no, no paintings, just no commitment to make a painting, only if I had the time slot to do it. Uh, but I get a lot of pleasure in just seeing everybody else make amazing work. But I'm okay with that. It's something I was sort of accepted before I sort of dove into the whole studio aspect.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's just too many things, right?
yeah, it's just not. Either I give up on how to run the studio and I pass on that task to someone else, but there's a very specific vision in what I believe in for our team and studio that I don't. I want to be the one to sort of run that. So I did a trade-off where I got help on the art side from our art director instead. So, uh, but yeah. But this is a question for both of us. Do you guys have any tip from Ryu Music? Do you guys have any tip on self-care, like preventing neck pain, wrist, RSI? I don't know what that stands for. Is that
I think it's like a carpal tunnel.
okay? Any other health issues that can emerge when you spend a lot of time in front of a screen?
I
You
think it
wanna?
comes back. Yeah, I'm sure. I think it comes back to the exercise. I really think it's so essential.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I mean, even with me, like right now, I'm kind of like I feel like I'm kind of bending my head down and kind of doing. I normally don't do that with the tablet. I sit like very straight, but get out, move the body. That's the best way to kind of like counteract all the sitting down in front of the computer. Um, I think that's just the most sound advice I can give on that part. I think if you have carpal tunnel, the fastest way I found to recover from carpal tunnel is to I can show you actually on on my little camera here. Is this? It's a wrist guard, and what it does is you can put your little 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 hand in here, then uh, you can kind of lock it like this, essentially. But what it does is that you cannot bend it. There's a metal plate in here, so you can't really bend your wrist much. And then I would sleep with it. And in terms of when I go to bed, I would wear it. So I'm not when I'm sleeping, I'm not bending my wrist. And that was the fastest way I found it to heal was just to kind of give it a rest as much as possible during the day whenever I could, but especially during the night, it sped it up so fast. But what about you, Etsy?
Uh, I think posture is really important, especially if you can get a standing desk, so you don't have to sit all day. I think that can help a lot with posture and um, if I sort of have a rule, I don't know about you, but it's like as soon as I feel any pain, like neck or hand, it's like a warning flag. It's like take a break right now. Whatever you're doing, it can wait. Take a break, stretch or something to really because to ignore that, it's like it's not gonna go away. You just uh, it's like inviting additional trouble for the future that you don't want.
I agree. I think that's actually a good advice. Like, whenever you feel it, step away from the computer and try to move that body part in some sort of way. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's one. Let's see. Oh wow, a lot of questions came in. One sec. Where's my mouse? Do you ever find yourself too that you're just looking for where your mouse is?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, um, do you think with 6 hours of let me see. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like I have to pick some of these. But this one says like essential question. Since posture is very important, what chair would you recommend for artists? I mean, that kind of goes into like we just talked about. Um, do you have a chair that you can recommend?
Uh, I would just say try it before, if you can, try it before you buy it. ideally if you can go to the store. I know it's easier to just order, but like to sit in it is very different. Try a few of them before you commit. I don't, everybody's different back, so I don't have a specific one I would recommend.
Same, same, yeah. Um, I'm using one that's on the expensive end of the spectrum, mainly because I was able to find it really cheaply, and it's really good for ergonomics.
Yeah,
But I think it's like if I had to buy that at a normal price, I would never have bought it because it's just ridiculous.
yeah.
So let's see. Do you think with 6 hours of drawing practice every day, is it possible to become professional in 5 years, or at least with good line art in 3 years? Take it away, Ate.
I think so. Uh, I think definitely, but it's also like how you spending those 6 hours. If it's 6 hours of productive work, of course. But if it's like 6 hours of tabbing out every once in a while, checking Instagram or Facebook, probably not.
Yeah. I think an important thing is also like I don't know, like I think whenever we talk about time or something like that, I think it's a dangerous trap in a way too because it becomes like a measuring stick. And
Yeah,
then if you don't have done that at a certain time or whatever, you feel like a failure or something. It's like no,
yeah,
it's like things takes time and you can't kind of like put that like I'm gonna be here in 5 years. Like things change, life changes, and you never know what happens. Um, so you can have that initial plan of like this is where I'm aiming and this is where I kind of I wanna go, but just don't put too much emphasis on it. Remember to have a bit of flexibility in there, essentially.
yeah. Yeah, we sort of talked about it earlier, but it's like I think thinking about how important it is, and if it's super, super, if it's like this is the only thing I want to do, it's like you can obviously increase a lot more of the time and sort of learn a lot more and a lot faster because things will change, and I think uh, just line work can work, but I think the stronger you are as an artist and painter, the more likelihood you will sort of find a spot somewhere.
Uh, let's see. Uh, Here's one. What do you think of labor market of illustration concept art? Is there more and more work with the development of video games? I'm gonna try to say that again because I'm not quite sure I understood it correctly. Um, okay, so there's actually an addition to it too. So it says, what do you think of the labor market of illustration slash concept art? Is there more and more work with the development of video games, or less because of the demon, demonetization through YouTube? I think it's like demonetization or something.
Oh,
Uh, of the demonetization through YouTube and social media.
I would say it's a lot more work out there now. Like there's so many studios out there and they're just popping up, right? Like there's uh, so many studios getting funding and investment to make games, which is amazing because that opens up so many new jobs for artists as well. We actually struggle finding people, to be completely honest, right? There is, um, it's really, really hard to finding, uh, because everybody's looking, like ArtStation, everybody's looking there, right? And if I would say there's a lot of jobs out there. As long as you can do the work, I guarantee you're gonna get work straight away. If the work is good enough, or he hits that quality bar, I would not be worried.
Yeah. I agree. I think what it really comes down to is the quality of work.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so essentially if something is not coming in the door or something, um don't don't our main focus should be, on like, okay, what do I need to do in order to get better? and then eventually, when you keep your focus on getting better, eventually things starts to roll a little bit more, and offers will come in. But I think an important element to that too is like you need to do work, but you also need to get it out there, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if it's just sitting on your hard disk, like it doesn't do any good, you know. So do the work, try to get better, get it out into the world.
Yeah. I think that's really important. It's like, people need to be able to find you somehow. I think ArtStation is really a fantastic place to put your work out there. Instagram is great, Twitter is great, but like if you're looking to get hired, I would say ArtStation is really good to go to. Uh, and I remember a particular example I can share where um, we have a fantastic artist called Henan, uh, and I'd never seen this guy's work before, you know. And I remember that day it popped up on ArtStation. It was, I think he just had started the account or something. And I was telling our recruiter, Alex, we need to talk to this guy like right now. We need to like get in touch with him as fast as possible. This guy is absolutely amazing. I've never seen the work before. And it wasn't very popular at the time on ArtStation either, but it's like there's just something in the work that we instantly picked up as soon as he basically posted up the work. So uh, yeah, if the work is great, he just put it out there. I guarantee you, people will find you.
That's good. I love actually that answer because you're the perfect guy to kind of like talk about this because you're actually going through the process of looking and hiring artists.
Yeah,
So it's nice to kind of have that perspective. So it's not just from the ones who are often seeking, but how is it to be the one that's are hiring?
yeah,
But yeah, I agree. I think the industry is going bananas,
yeah,
and there's more jobs out there, especially since than there was 10 years ago. So
yeah,
there's more opportunities out there, and yeah. Um, let's see. Um, let's see. Hey, Esben, do you guys have any thoughts on Clip Studio Paint as a competitor to Photoshop, and as a student, should I stick to Photoshop? We touched a little bit upon that earlier in the talk. So I'll just like do the quick recap of that in case you joined a little bit later. Um, but essentially, we both really like Clip Studio Paint. We think that Clip Studio Paint has a lot of potential. We love that there's a competitor to Photoshop because essentially it's gonna mean that we're gonna get better products. And we're all for that. Give us the best tools that we can make.
yeah,
So we're all for it. I think Clip Studio Paint is a fantastic program. I think it's price wise, it's way more competitive than Photoshop is.
yeah,
So if you're a student and you don't have the amount of money that Photoshop, for example, requires, I think Clip Studio Paint is a great alternative.
yeah,
And I think Clip Studio Paint have even Photoshop on some things, but there's also some things where Photoshop is better than Clip Studio Paint. So it's a it's a mix. It's a mix. I think for me, I think Photoshop is still better in terms of like editing and photo manipulation tools, but in terms of some of the painting tools and brushes and all of that, it's better in Clip Studio Paint.
yeah. I agree.
So I think that's the recap for that. Um, yeah. What about you? Do you have any what's it called? Questions on your side?
Yeah, I got one from. Let me see. There's a few of them. Uh, we can start. We can take Sebastian Begin. Do you guys feel it's important not to work on autopilot? How do you keep making conscious decisions instead of mindlessly drawing?
That's actually I really like that question.
Yeah. You want to go?
No, I want to hear your
Okay,
thoughts first.
okay. Uh, I think like uh you 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 want to sort of like like in a day I only have so much energy, right? And you can only concentrate so much before your brain just checks out. At least for me, you know. And what I would propose is like every day try to, especially like before lunch, to get in the big decisions in, and try to answer the big questions. And after lunch, you can focus on uh, doing things that don't require you to think too hard. Uh, that's just my philosophy to try and like I think of myself almost like a battery, right? When it's green and it's fully charged, use it on the most difficult part, and as the battery starts running out during the day, turn on audiobook, turn on music, and then you can just concentrate on making it look good, but you don't really have to make difficult decisions in the image.
I like that. I think that's the eat the frog first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think people work different too. I know that you always been like a wake up early type of guy. You
Yeah.
wake up like at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. sometimes, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
So you're definitely a morning person.
Yeah.
I think I'm a hybrid. I swing like depending on my sleep cycles.
Okay.
But I do find that for me sometimes working in the evening, if there's like kind of peace and quiet around me, I really delve into a zone.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it depends on what kind of works for you and feel it out. Feel like where do you have your best moments? But I agree a lot with that of like if you're problem solving some really hard problems, start with the heaviest first.
Yeah.
Um, for sure. Because like when you're depleted, you're not gonna do a great job of solving problems. So,
Yeah.
but
Uh,
I think you're one of the craziest persons I know in terms of crazy and incredibly disciplined and burning desire.
Thanks,
Not
man.
in a negative way, but like like you woke up for like such a long time, just like at 5 a.m. or something, just
Yeah.
because that was like that's what you were doing, and I was like, I don't know if I could do that. I mean, I probably could. It's probably just a mindset. So
Yeah.
just the fact that I'm saying I don't know if I could do it, that's probably just it. I just need to shift that mindset, and then I would just start doing it instead of
Yeah.
starting to think too much about it. Just start doing.
Yeah. I think it's how like I was doing it a lot in LA because it was things were really important to me that I wanted to achieve before the day started. Now I still work same amount of time, just later in the night instead of starting a bit earlier. But I want to get back to the. I was doing the early cycle again, but I got pretty sick with COVID, so it sort of messed everything up. But I want to get back to it in January again.
Sorry to hear that, and it sounds like it was a rough one because if you could have woken up early, I'm sure you would have done it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, I have one more here um, from Radu Draws. Is it better to work in a small studio that just started out or in a bigger company? What would you prefer?
Smaller.
Why?
The reason why is I think if you start out in a big company, I actually think you start taking some things for granted.
Yeah,
Um, because you don't know what the rest of the landscape is. And often also like I think you're not I don't know you don't, yeah, you don't appreciate it in the same way.
yeah,
Yeah, there are just some things that, and I think also like if you have the smaller studios, you learn some really valuable things. Like you get to wear some more hats. It's a little bit more intimate. Um, yeah, I think the smaller studios. But what about you?
Uh, I think because we both worked at pretty small with the first studio we worked, and then we both did Riot, which is pretty big. Uh, and I think we both have like really cool aspects where, the small one, you really felt like you knew everybody, and it felt like you're sitting really closely, but definitely like on the, uh, at least where we worked, the niceties of a bigger office. Obviously we did not have that, which is nice, when you work in like a nice office environment and campus and stuff like that. But I think there's good to both, but um, it just really depends on like you know where you want to go with your work and where. Because, like, for instance, say you come into a smaller studio that started out. If you're the only artist, I don't think it's that valuable of an experience versus, like, if there's a team of artists, right? Because I think it's really important if you're starting out to be around people who also do the creative side, so you're not sort of the only person doing that. It's just my opinion.
There's also one here that says this is more of a technical question, but would you show us how to go from grayscale to color sometime? I can, but I I normally for these sort of sketches, I kind of if I start them in grayscale, I normally keep them to grayscale, because often if I'm planning to do color, I'll just paint straight in color. But let's try to do it. But it's gonna be janky. It's a finessing thing, especially when you're taking from grayscale to color. It's a lot of finessing. So, but I can show you like how to kind of start it out. So I'll do that in the background, and then we just keep talking.
Cool. It's actually pretty good because there's a question from Art Rich Studio. I'm working to improve my colors. My painting looks like a clown vomited on my drawing. What would you
Oh
recommend for
no,
for practicing color
not the
selection?
clown. Uh, that's a. I know that feeling. Um. Whew. Well, I think often if it feels like it's a clown that vomited, it sounds like it's oversaturation. So it sounds like it's too much color. And yeah. Um yeah. So you want to make sure that you're working with the grays and with desaturation. Often things appear to be colorful, mostly because there's a really nice balance of grays and things that aren't colorful. But I think that's really when when explaining color to somebody who's starting out, it's a little bit hard because understanding color is tricky to it's tricky to give a simple explanation of it because it's relative. So that means the color changes in terms of how you perceive the color depending on what is around it. So that in itself sounds very elusive. Um, but color is sort of like a little bit elusive and can do a lot of tricks to your eye. Um, but the main thing is going to be to kind of like control where it doesn't need to have a lot of color and where it is that you want to lead the eye, and then you can apply color there or vice versa. So that's a horrible explanation of it, but Ete, would you have a better one?
Um, I would say painting from life has always been really helpful for me. To just because I remember particularly like there was a period where I especially there was a group of artists who they had such a unique way of using colors. It almost felt like you could taste it, how tasty it was. Um, and I was looking at it was I think it was Dice Tatsumi and Nathan Folks in particular who had while different styles, their colors were fantastic. And I was looking for the secret. What is the secret thing that these two have in common? And what I found was particular for like people work on feature film and animation, they do a lot of outdoor painting. And I was like, oh, is that it? And I started doing it myself, and I think not necessarily but the secret like outdoor painting, but it's like when you paint outside, it's like you observe things differently than if you're looking at a photo because your eye uh, it just you can pick up with so many different things with your eyes than compared to a camera lens. I know camera lenses are really good now, but still the eyeball is better. And I think if you work with traditional media as well, uh, it's really painful when you make a mistake. So you tend to be more observant as you're painting, and you try. And I think you pick up more stuff that way. Uh, and I think that way can be a really good approach to trying to improve your colors. Your first probably 100 painting are gonna still look like the clown vomited on it, with traditional media as well. But I think after a while it will get better.
Definitely. Yeah, it will take time and practice for sure. I love that. I'm gonna remember that clown commented on the views.
Yeah.
That's gonna be something I'm gonna say next time I'm messing up my colors. So
Yeah.
I feel like you're pretty good with colors too. Like I say, like what was one of the things that kind of like where you felt like you learned the most in terms of how colors work and everything?
I think it was really just painting a lot from outside, to be honest. And then what I tried to do with like the outdoor painting is like I'm not good at traditional, but it's like I think it's okay because it's for me it's more about like learning than trying to make a pretty painting when I go outside. And I think the way I've tried to paint traditionally is to mimic digitally. So it's like wash is very close to how I work digitally, and it's been a good bridge between the learning and implementing as well, which I found super helpful for me at least.
So you would say like plein air was like the thing that kind of like put it all together for you?
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
That's cool. I remember I was taught the theory, like color theory and all that, and it took me a year before I understood the theory, but I wasn't able to use it. Like it took me a good chunk of time before any of that started to kind of fall into place.
Yeah,
This takes time.
yeah.
Let's see. Are you changing the layer mode for the color passes, Esben Lash? Yes. Right now the color mode is multiply. So I'm trying to just lighten up some of the darks so they're not as black. Because often if something is like really black or white, it feels washed out. So I'm gonna try to kind of like do that. But like especially working with grayscale, it's a messy process because it's like you're building layer upon layer upon layer, and you're basically relying on your eye of what looks right to it. So like it's kind of building in subtlety, and it just takes time. But what do you think? Like, do you go from do you use the sort of like grayscale to color often, as I?
Um, Not so much personally. Sometimes maybe like really early stages just to put down the read hierarchy of like, you know, how do I want to group the values as a whole? What's going to be in the light? What's going to be in the shadow? But I tend to, at least with personal work, because I'm not looking for feedback from anyone. I'm just doing my thing. I just I just go straight into colors. But I think for when you work for someone else, it's kind of good to do black and white first to make sure that uh, they don't get distracted by colors early on.
That's good advice too.
Yeah.
What is the most important thing you need to keep like? So we'll probably let's do like a two or three more questions, and we'll start to kind of like we'll
Round it
start to
off.
round it out. Yeah, because we've been going for like 2.5 hours, and I can hear I hear we're getting a little tired. It's almost midnight. It's almost midnight for us.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so I think it's a good time to start to slowly wrap this up.
Okay.
So let's see. What is the most important thing you need to keep in mind when working for a company? I take it away.
Uh, I think like it's a. I think probably the most important thing is like you're there to be part of a team and to bring whatever vision that company has in mind to light. And I think sometimes it can be easy to try and do your own vision versus what's actually the best thing for the thing you're working on. You know, and I think it's like a balance, right? It's not only like you should not only just listen to the direction, but add your own flavor. And it's trying to find. There's something I struggled a lot with, in my early careers. Like, should you 100% follow the feedback? Should you filter it and try to pick out the nuggets and build upon it? But I think always trying to think about what is, objectively for the thing you're making. Say you're making an illustration of a new character, really trying to represent the character in the accurate lighting and trait it is versus too much of a personal taste on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, like don't just do what it is that you want to do. Remember that it's you're working in unison with several disciplines and there's a bigger thing behind it and it's your job to communicate all the work that was also done by the people um in order to, for example, create a character or design a character and create the story behind it. So is that understood correctly?
That is an amazing explanation of that. Yeah. Yes.
Great. I very much I agree very much. I think it's a balance. It's a balance of doing, and when you're doing a job, you have to be professional. Like
Yeah.
you're being hired to do something. That's what you're being paid to do. And you can find ways where you can add your own twist to it or things like that, but stay professional in terms of like, if you do something, just do it well.
Yeah. Uh, maybe we can take two more from mine, and if you want to take one or two more, we can wrap up.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. This one is pretty interesting from Alkrit Sharam. What do you think about working freelance right away rather than going to a studio first?
I'll take it.
Uh, I think I actually talked to a friend of mine a lot about this, and I think especially early in your career, going in-house, it can be extremely valuable, because I think when you're starting out, there's so much to learn. Not just about art, right? It's about other disciplines as well. Because if you're working as a concept artist, you're part of a larger cycle, right? What you're drawing, the 3D artist is going to build, and then the animator is going to animate, and so on, and then the illustrator is going to do promo work of it. And I think it's important to understand that cycle because it'll help you inform decisions on your own. That if you work freelance, I think oftentimes it's different if you do freelance illustration. I'm talking more about concept art. Uh, that it's a one-way door and it's not too collaborative, and I think you can miss out on a lot of things that way. So I would, uh, even though freelance is a bit more, you can work, uh, you know, your hours and stuff. But I think going to a studio first, it would be very healthy. I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I would like to kind of second some of that. I think it also depends on what kind of person you are.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that has a lot of say into it and your life situation and all that. If you're like if for some reason, like let's say that your situation is that you're mother is sick, you don't have a father, and like your mom is relying on you, like just moving country to a studio or something like moving away to a studio is extremely hard to do.
Yeah.
So it definitely, like the advice that we have kind of dispensed tonight is like it's not one fits all, of course, but
Yeah.
I think generally, right, generally for most part, if it doesn't come with a huge sacrifice on your end and you feel like you want to do it, I think that there's a lot of benefits with taking studio work too to start off with.
Yeah.
And you're gonna learn from the people around you. That's really amazing and fun.
Yeah. And I think it would be cool. You're probably gonna move as well, right? You get to see different part of the world and just learn new things. And I think that if you have a partner, you have family stuff, that stuff gets harder later in life. So if you're early in your young 20s or whatever it is, like take the chance to just explore and have fun.
Let's see. We got do. Have you tried select color range hue saturation slider to just color certain value? Found it should be a very straightforward working flow to colorize without getting many colors. Yeah, that could work. I don't normally. So the thing is, I normally don't work in this. I don't normally work from grayscale to color. Often I would like do grayscale as studies or something like that, and then I would mostly do pretty much all professional work directly in color. So it's been a while since I've been coloring from grayscale. But there's let's see. There's a question here that says that's the same question that we just had. Sorry, I'm gonna go a little bit further down. Um, um, I've been doing um, I've been doing art. Uh, there's a little bit of sorry. I've been doing art about 5 years. And now I'm still learning and improving. And I've been dealing with a lot of discouragement, like with my own art, not by anyone, just my own self trying to get over it. I think this person was kind of like, it's kind of like more saying that it's, um, that um, like they've been working on art for about 5 years. They're still learning and they're still improving a lot,
Yeah.
but they're dealing with a lot of discouragement in their own art, and it's not by any out external source. It's something internal, and they're just trying to kind of like see how to navigate some of that.
Yeah.
What were you saying? That's I think I have a bit of that too. What
Do you want to
do you?
go first?
I can do it. I think when you have that sort of internal voice or pressure too, where you're judging yourself very hardly, and sometimes like too hard, where it actually becomes it can become too much, right? Where it becomes self-sabotaging or self-destructive, and um, and I think the way that you kind of balance some of that is essentially to understand that that voice that you had built in a first place was there because it served a function. Um, it kind of pushed you harder, right? It was like whenever you were feeling like quitting or whenever you would feel like giving up or something like that, it would kind of help you push yourself a little bit further. But the problem is, give me one second. I just need to shift this song here because I think that play started to go over into something else. All right, so what you have to remember is essentially that mechanic that you build internally that served a function in the start. You have to watch it and say like, hey, is this starting to become constructive, or is this mechanic actually starting um, to be destructive? And it sounds to me like, from the way that you're describing it, is that you're your own worst critic, right? And that can be a good thing and a bad thing. I think the thing when it gets really bad is when it becomes self-destructive in that sort of sense. And then you want to look at it too, and you say like, okay, how can I change some of my behavior? And that's really fucking hard to do. I'm not saying that that's easy, but how can I relieve some of that pressure that I put on myself and that I've done for a long time? So when you've maybe talked to yourself really harshly and badly, you have to like try to be aware when that's happening, kind of catch yourself when you're doing it, and try to shift it. Try to be like, like it's not that bad. Like I'm improving. I'm still learning, and that's good. Just take it, give it time, right? And be gentle with yourself, because you have to remember too. Is like you don't go up to a plant and you don't like scold it and yell at it and say grow faster, grow faster. You're not doing it. You're not doing enough, and that's what you are. Like you're a living organism, and as long as you tend to it, as long as you care for the craft that you're doing, then it will grow. But it's just gonna take time, and remember that to be kind of gentle with it. Go back, water it, do your thing, and then try to let go of that sort of like judging voice that you've built in the start, or maybe find a way to update it. That would be my 2 cents. But what do you think, Ete?
I think that's a really great answer. And just to add on top of it, because it sort of ties into a cycle of thinking a bit negatively. And I sort of had this exact same thing where it was like, um, it is really easy to look at all the bad stuff in your work, you know? And I think it can spread out to other things during your day or your life, right? And I noticed this thing, particularly like for myself, I was getting a bit too negative, uh, or maybe a lot of negative, mostly on myself, you know. And I picked up this thing which made a huge difference. It was like it was called a 5 minute journal, and every day you have to write something you're grateful for. Doesn't have to be art, you know. And uh, something that let me think. It was like it was basically three things of like what you're grateful for, what you're hoping to do today, and what you accomplished today. You know, and it's the idea about it. It's like it starts putting you in this mindset of thinking positively. It's just a small thing of like just appreciating the things that are great. You know, uh, I think can make a big, really, really big difference. You know, in just changing that mindset. I think directly impact on how you look at your art as well. So there's a lot of different versions out there, but the one I got was like a 5 minute journal, and, and it's like each morning it was really cool. It's like a motivational speech or like some pep word, you know, before you start your day, you just read that and try not to spoil the day that's coming up, you know. So it's always cool to reading those. That I really liked, and I think just to add to what Esben said, I would try that as well.
Yeah, that's really good. All right, your last question.
Okay, let me see. Mm, mm, mm. We can take by.
You can
Uh,
look, you can look, you can look a little bit and say like, "Hey, give me a really good question." Like, give me a
Alright.
hard one.
If anyone has any questions they've been burning to ask, feel free to drop it. There's a few of them that are pretty good in here. Uh,
it's funny because like the music on my end is like super jolly and like very Christmassy, but I just feel like we're just talking about some real life stuff. It's
Yeah.
good.
All right, let's do uh from Max Mena. Hey guys, love the stream. Curveball question: what is one past project you wish you could have been part of, and why? Keep up the amazing work.
You want to
You,
start?
no, you go, you go. I want to hear yours first.
Arcane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard to sit and see that get made and not be able to work on it. That was hard, and it's just such a masterpiece, man. And
Yeah.
I got the first sneak peeks like 3-4 years ago,
Yeah.
and I was like, I cannot believe that like this is looking so good.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I wish I would have worked on Arcane. That's I feel it's the best thing that Riot has produced, and in a sense, we were part of it because we helped the money flow, so we could invest in making some bigger chances.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know if that's the wrong way of conceptualizing it, but I would have loved to work on Arcane. That would have been absolutely fantastic.
I think so too, man. Like I saw the concept Victor posted the other day, and they posted a lot of the artists who worked on the show posted up their work. It looks so goddamn cool. It looked like they had a lot of fun as well. Uh,
Yeah,
so I would hard agree on Arcane. Very everybody who worked on it did such an incredible job, and it's just too short. That's my own complaint. Like we're gonna have to wait so long to get the yeah. That's my only. It's just fantastic, and I think what's cool about it, it's like I think it pushed animation forward, which is amazing. So hopefully other studios would be like, huh, maybe we should try and make a cool animated series. Who knows?
totally. I think it's also it's like it's one of those things where it made an impact and it's something that people will remember for a very long time to come. But I
Yeah,
remember in one of my early talks, I think it was in the interview talk I had when I was about to join, they would ask like, like what would you love to see Riot do in the next, 5 years?
yeah,
Uh, and I brought up the what's it called, example of Pokemon,
yeah,
where I said I think Pokemon became so big not because of the game, but because of the game and the TV series at the same time. Because with the game, it was just like a flat pixel, and it was fine. It was good at the time, but with this TV series all of a sudden coming out around the same time, now you had emotions and you
yeah,
had an emotional link to it. So when you went back to the game, you felt way more. Like you
yeah,
were like, oh, that's Pikachu, and then you're like you know how they reacted, and you had all these feelings connected to it. And I think that that's really what that's so great about Arcane now because the game has been really great and whatever, but a lot of people would love to see more of that story and hear about the characters and see that humanness in the characters, not that they're just like aspirational and cool and badass all the time, like because
yeah,
that's a fake fantasy. Nobody's like that.
yeah,
The humanness is the darkness that we all carry in us and the suffering and all that sort of stuff. And I think that Arcane was perfect because it didn't shy away from being dark.
yeah,
It didn't shy away from being grim. It was a risk because a lot of shows don't do that, right? It's
yeah,
like, oh, we can't show all these things because it's just like no, like Christian Linky was the art director of it, and he hold steady, and that was the right thing for the story, and I really applaud him for that. I think
yeah,
it's the totally the right call, and I think honestly, all the success that came from it is so very well deserved. So
yeah.
I would have loved to work on it.
Same, man. Same. Who knows? Maybe for the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah. Maybe Arcane 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll see how the future goes. But yeah, it's funny that it's the same one. Um,
Yeah.
just it's wonderful, wonderful project. Fortiche kicked ass.
Yeah. Do you want
Um,
to do the last one from your?
yeah, let's do the last one, and then we're gonna round it out. Um, oh wow, there's a lot of ones. I'm gonna look through and pick one that I like. Oh, this is a great one to start us end off with.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm really getting ready for bed too.
Okay.
What what are your long-term goals art-wise? Take it away.
Oh. uh, can I link it to the studio?
Yeah, of course. I think I have linked in the description. There is a link to at his studio too. The is it Inva that
Yeah.
you want to link to? Okay, so
Yeah.
in the description there's a link to invastudio.com. So whatever Ed is gonna be saying now, it's gonna be tied in with that.
Okay. I want to. I believe in trying to make the absolute best working environment on the planet, and I really want to build something where all the most fantastic and creative people can work in a place where uh, it's just focusing on the creative aspect and just really having the best time of their artistic career. And I think uh, it's a long goal, and I think it's a very difficult one, but especially in the games industry, um, I think there's a need for. There's a lot of great companies out there, but I want us to be the absolute best when it comes to working environment, and make the best work there's ever been in the entertainment industry.
It's a really lofty one. I
Yeah,
like it.
yeah, yeah. What about you?
Long-term long-term goals art-wise. Um, I would love to be able to still create until I die. Um, just to be able to just keep making good work and art um that communicates the human soul, and I guess also some of mine. And I hope with time too, I will dare to show myself a little bit more. I'm working on a personal project that been on the hold for very way too long, and I'd love to at some point get that all wrapped up and out into the world and kind of show that piece of me. But yeah, other than that, I would just love to keep working.
At
Yeah,
95, still doing commission illustrations.
95,
Yeah, yeah.
95,
Why
and
not?
then just still, yeah, I mean, or at that point, it would probably just be for me, and then
Yeah,
whoever would like to buy it, and but for me, I don't know. I think it's just to keep doing it. That would be my long-term goal. I just want to keep doing it.
yeah.
I really like it, um, and it's been one of the best things in my life, I would say. So, um, yeah. So I don't know if that's a bad answer, but that's
I
an
think
honest
that's a
one.
good one.
Yeah. So that's it. That's it. We did it, Ate. it was it was 3 hours almost.
That's super fun, man.
Yeah. These are always like once you kind of get going and you start to relax a little bit more in it and like, oh yeah, and then you like start to drift off. That's really good
Yeah,
because then it's just you. And I think you it was a pleasure doing this with you. It's
same, man.
I think we got high, we got low, we covered like a wide area. So
Yeah,
I
whole
think
spectrum.
people, yeah, exactly. So I think
Yeah,
people really enjoyed it. That's at least what they say in the chat now. So
awesome.
um, yeah, I think that's it. Are you ready to hit that stop streaming button in a second?
Yeah, yeah. Just want to wish everybody Merry Christmas, and for everybody who joined in, thank you so much.
Totally. Yeah, and enjoy the time with family and all that. We're gonna head out and enjoy the last bits of the evening, and then Christmas Eve tomorrow. That's
Yeah,
gonna be fun.
yeah.
So have a great one, y'all. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year when that time comes.
Merry Christmas. Bye.
Ciao.